Good morning. Welcome again to Morning Devotions, and thank you again so much for our time together. We're going to do our study today out of Philippians chapter 4 about how we choose to focus our minds. When I was a young boy, about 18 years old, 19 years old, I was doing my internship in a little town called Canton, Illinois. There was a 75-year-old preacher who came through to preach. He was a friend of the pastor, and he did not have a PhD or a DD or an MDiv, but he did have a doctorate degree in neology. He loved to pray and he knew God. And he had this one thing he used to say. He said, "Don't have stinking thinking." And I can remember as a young man, I thought, now that's very improper English. But as I've learned in life, there's a lot of people that have stinking thinking. The way you think stinks, and nobody sees it, but as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. It does affect your life. Now let's begin to talk about how to have proper thinking. Beginning, in verse 7, Paul said, "And the peace of God which transcends all understanding." You'll never understand the peace of God. Will guard, the word there means literally to stand as an armed guard, will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. What an absolutely beautiful thought. That the peace of God will actually function like an armed guard and guard your thoughts, guard your emotions. You'll hear me pray this often for young people getting ready to go in for their board exams. I said, Lord, let the peace of God guard, stand as an armed guard over all their emotions and over all of their thoughts, that their thoughts will flow freely and easily, and emotions and fear will not paralyze their thinking process. Now, oftentimes we get brain freeze. Have you ever talked to somebody and they just get brain freeze? Well, the peace of God will guard your heart and guard your mind in Christ Jesus. But then Paul continues, "Finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if there's anything excellent or praiseworthy, think about these things." What are you supposed to spend your time thinking about? I talked with a young man the other day, and he'd been criticized, and he was feeling rather discouraged, and I laughed at him, and I said, "You should sit in my chair for a while." There are times that you just have to decide, I'm not going to think about one foolish person's mean, nasty words. Now, please forgive me. Every one of us, every day, we have people that say very horrible things to us. I saw a little girl in the church the other day running across, and she was maybe a little overweight, but she wasn't big. And this older woman looked at her and said, she was eating an ice cream cone, and this woman looked at her and said, "Little girl, you're too fat. You shouldn't eat ice cream." And I thought, what business of that is yours? So I picked up the little girl, and you could see her whole face fall, and I thought, if this little girl's not careful, those words are going to ring in her heart. Her mommy and daddy will never know about it, but those words will ring in her heart forever. Or somebody walk up to a little girl and say, "Oh, you're ugly." And for the rest of her life, she'll have that thought in her head, and she'll think about that thing. Now, every one of us has horrible things said to us. Please forgive me. Every one of us. Jesus did too. They called him a bastard, that he was an illegitimate child, and the word that they used in the Greek was very strong. He was a bastard. It was a very strong, very ugly, harsh word. They said that he was demon-possessed. They said all kinds of things against him, just like you and I have all kinds of things said about us. But it doesn't matter what other people think about you. It matters what you think. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Now you have to decide, what do you think? What are you going to focus your mind on? All the ugly words that people say to you, all the ugly things going on in the world? There's a lot of things I don't even want to enter my mind. I don't want to see somebody beheaded. I don't want to go to the internet and look it up because I want to see some guy cut somebody's head off. There's a lot of things I just don't need in my mind. You say, "Pastor, you're being naive." No, I've learned in my short life that there's a lot of things I just don't need to know about. He said, "Brother, if it's true, think about that. If it's noble, think about it. If it's right, think about it. If it's pure, think about it. If it's lovely, think about it. If it's admirable, think about it. If it's excellent, think about it. If it's praiseworthy, think about it." Think about such things. Let's not have stinking thinking. Let's have good thinking.